A game by Spookle McBoogle. That's how you know we're in for an experience. Oh, look at this. The way it's framed in this aspect ratio, it almost looks like I'm playing it on an old PC monitor or something. The graphics certainly aid in that illusion as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Live Under Your House, a point-and-click adventure game about a creature living underground. And that's all I bothered to look into because I didn't want any spoilers. I just have no idea what this is about. A DLC story or main story. That's kind of interesting how there's just buttons placed on here and I have to mouse over them to see. Main story, I guess. I do have the DLC as well. I open my eyes, and here I am, home again. It's such a wonderful feeling. It looks like we're in some kind of tunnel. What does this do? That must be like some kind of examine. And that enables us to move forward. As usual, no one. That's good. That's very good. I like being alone. Having this jitter to the camera, it gives it this, like, writhing, gross effect. We have a few options here. This is the main hall. How nice it is here. Every time I come here, I feel joy and pride because I dug all these holes. I don't even know which hole to go into first today. What is the nature of this creature? I can't seem to highlight these to choose them. Oh, I have to get rid of the dialogue in order to do so. Dead ahead. Into one of these side ones. Oh, there's a whole network down here. Every tunnel is different. For example, this one is narrower than the others, and sometimes I think I might get stuck in it. Then my heart starts beating harder. My whole body gets tense. I can't help it. I have to move slowly if I want to get out of it. I love this feeling. I believe this game does have different endings, so maybe it depends on which path we take in the beginning? Oh, and when we mouse over something we can examine, the eye begins to blink. I need to find something sharp to open it up and see who she used to be. Or what she has become. Is this some kind of cocoon? The question here is, what have I become? That's the question I'm asking. Okay, we can pull out and see which one of these we want to go down. What about down this one on the left? Ahead of me is my pebble space, where I keep the different stones I find during my excavations. I like to look at them, to stroke them. Oh, how I like to stroke them. Sometimes I even dream about stroking a stone, and the feeling is so real. I can feel it at the tip of my fingers. I love stones. Wow, it's putting us into the mindset of some kind of creature. And oddly enough, I'm kind of connecting to it. Think about all the things we do in our day-to-day routines that we don't really think about, but from another perspective could almost be read in a similar way. What is this? I found a rock sharp enough to cut through someone's belly. Oh, that's great. So that's the first thing you thought of upon encountering a sharp object. You are a predator, aren't you? A predator of what? That's what remains to be seen. Alright, so down here then, or should I explore the other tunnels first? No, I'm in the wrong one. This is my sleeping place. This is where I usually sleep. Although I can sleep anywhere, I still prefer to sleep here. Well, that's what a bedroom is. You could sleep on the couch, could sleep on the rug. I choose to sleep here. I'm so tired, but I can't sleep yet. No, okay, so this one right here, that's the sleeping place, that's the pebble place, and this must be the narrow place. The one that I seemingly love so much. Okay, that caught me a little off guard. Like opening to that one page in the Scary Stories books, you know the one I mean. She died when I was born. Or so it seemed to me. I never knew my father, and maybe a creature like me has no father at all. For as long as I can remember. I've been alone all my life. At first I just watched her body, hoping maybe something else would crawl out of it, and I would have a new relative. However, this did not happen. I talked to her body from time to time out of loneliness, though I mooed and made different sounds rather than spoke. I had to eat its various parts because I was hungry, so I am grateful to her. If not for her sacrifice, I would have died. I'm starting to think that she didn't maybe give birth to us so much as we were some creature that grew out of her, unless maybe she was pregnant with us when she died and was buried down here? Somehow my thoughts are almost more disturbing than the game at this point. Over time, I began to notice that her body was crusting over, and the places I had bitten were getting scarred. I realized that she was still alive, so I started eating her body more carefully, trying not to take too big a bite. Layer after layer of her body grew a kind of crust, eventually forming a cocoon through which I could no longer penetrate. Until now. I don't know how much time had passed since then, but I waited and waited, long enough for something to happen, but nothing did. It's a pity she never saw what a beautiful creature I had become, how many tunnels I had dug. Well, now I'm sure I'm all alone in the world. Great. I'm tired of worrying about her. Yay? The remnants of the creature I came out of. I was worried that it would come out of the cocoon and want to eat me or avenge all my bites. But apparently it just decided to die quietly. Now my anxiety was gone. So you lived in both reverence and fear of this mother. I don't like staring at this. Let's go. And it seems we can't continue further down the tunnel. Or continue to look at you. Probably for the best. Now we can only go forward. I rarely go outside, especially since he's waiting for me on the way. There's a spirit standing right at the exit, and every time I pass by, he starts talking to me. I don't like to intercourse with him. It's weird getting an idea for how this thing sees the world. Its likes and dislikes that make so little sense to us, but we're kind of starting to get into that mindset. This tunnel, this central chamber, looks like it's probably the widest of all. You don't like to go outside, huh? Maybe we should. Is there nothing else we can do here? I'm not sure where else I can go now. Maybe now we can go to sleep? Ah! Twice I've been jump scared by this point-and-click game. This aspect ratio almost makes it look like something on the Game Boy. They're laughing at me. This imagery. Every night when I try to sleep, they come to me to make fun of me. They laugh. They have so much fun when I cry. No matter how much I expect it, these horrific images just keep getting me. They watch during the day and wait for me to do something stupid, looking for opportunities to make fun of me so they can come and laugh at night. What an existence. Oh, bravo to whoever did this artwork. Sometimes they talk to me. They whisper things. They want me to go outside. After a night of torture like this, I usually wake up tired and hungry. So I crawl outside in search of food. Ah! Ah! What a terrible noise. That sounded like some kind of machine, like mining equipment. Is that just the method by which my creature gains the motivation to go outside and find food? Or are these things actually down here with me? It won't stop. That definitely sounds like jackhammering or something on the surface. I don't seem to have any other choice. I have to go outside and see what's going on. There you are. You must be the spirit. I knew you'd show up soon. It's because of those noises, isn't it? I don't want to leave my home. Maybe it will subside on its own? Nonsense. Maybe they came to take your home. Maybe they came for you. Who knows what's making those awful noises? You must come out. Okay, so I'm out. And then what? You know what's next. The same thing you always do. The same thing you do when you're hungry. What makes your breathing quicken and your whole body tingle. It's time to go outside again. So feeding may not be something I want to do. It seems like my character feels goaded by these potentially imaginary relationships with potentially imaginary creatures. A farm or some type of industrial warehouse? As soon as I crawled out into the open air, a disgusting sight came into view. There were metal creatures everywhere, and a horrible-looking structure stood before my eyes. I had no specific plan of action, but one thing was obvious to me. There is construction going on, and they're building right over my head, and something has to be done about it. Oh, that is so cool. We're seeing this from, like, the opposite perspective of a horror story, where the creature unearthed by humans digging too deep, of disturbing the wrong ancient chamber. There were too many people around, and I couldn't act out in the open. I had to wait for the right moment, and I started watching. You vile creatures will pay for disturbing my peace. The peace of my tunnels and stones, though certainly not the peace of slumber. Seems I got none there. Another tunnel. Yeah, bees, bees, bees. What should I do with you? have to be careful. If they find me, it's all gone. But I can't do nothing either. My strength is enough to deal with only one of them. But maybe if you kill one... The hunger is getting stronger and stronger. No strength to hold back. Something has to be done. I only had the strength for one. Eventually, the house was finished. Different people began to come and go from the house. The unbearable stomping was causing me to have anxiety attacks with every knock. What if they find me? What if it never ends and I have to move somewhere else? Where would I go? I don't have the energy to dig new tunnels. Yeah, not without feeding, right? From time to time, I had to crawl out to see if everything was okay. If they were looking for me. For some reason, I had the distinct feeling that they had come to hunt me down. Then, one day, people came in and dragged a huge number of boxes. A woman in a blue dress yelled at them and waved her hands, and then everyone left. But the woman stayed in the house. There's real value in seeing this story from the monster's perspective, or I say monster, we have no idea what we are. But wow, this gives us the impression, oddly enough, I mean, I've talked about this before, about how sometimes being the scary thing can be creepy all its own. Like when I'm exploring an abandoned building and I look out the window and watch silently as people pass right by. For some reason, it sort of creates a fear of being in the other person's shoes, and this is hitting that times 10. I've never seen it done in a game before, at least not intentionally. Time passed and no one else came to the house. It was just this woman. Well, she doesn't look like a threat, I thought. However, pretty quickly my life turned into a nightmare. Pretty much my entire living area was right under this house. Every action she took, every step, every sneeze echoed through the depths of my sanctuary. Her life became part of my life. Gradually, I got to know her schedule, what she does, how she does it. I knew all her habits, the rhythm of her gait. I began to feel that my sleep was disturbed, even more disturbed than before. I just couldn't sleep with something constantly pounding, muttering and shuffling over my body. In the few hours when I did manage to sleep, those ghosts of the night would come back to haunt me and make fun of me. Oh yes, now they really had a lot to laugh about. Thus, my torture became a 24-hour routine. This thing almost sees this house and its inhabitants as like a mouse or an insect infestation. I have to do something about it, even at the risk of being caught, at the risk of losing my home. Who am I kidding? I don't have a home anymore. She took it from me. I must get out and stop this nightmare. Chapter 1. Love. A thrill of excitement overwhelms me. I no longer have the strength to hold back and watch from the sidelines. It's time to find out who lives above me. Are we peering in through the window? I need to look around carefully before I act. Oh! A 3D segment! I didn't expect this at all! We're quite short. But it would seem, though, that we've fed before. That although we can go a long time without feeding, that the time has come. This is the first time I've ever been inside a human house. There's so much space, it makes me sick. The only thing worse than this is the outdoors. I almost feel afraid on behalf of this woman. I'm trying to find her. I know what it is. It's called a book. Once upon a time, I was very hungry, and just at that moment, a little man sat down next to the entrance of my home. I remember he had little hands, little feet, and he was like a puppet. That little man also had a bag with him. I don't remember being aware of all the dangers of this world at that time, so I climbed out of my hiding place with interest and began to look at him. The little man didn't notice me right away, but when he did see me, his eyes widened and his mouth opened in that unimaginable way and made a horrible, disgusting sound. That sound was driving me crazy. I wanted to get closer to him, but he kept crawling farther and farther away from me. Eventually, the feeling came over me, and then all I remember was his head in my hands. His body was lying somewhere nearby. His bag he had brought with him was slightly torn, and then I saw books scattered around. I don't know why they caught my eye, but I took them with me. Many pages were badly damaged and stained with blood. Some pages were missing altogether, but that didn't stop me. I began to study them, and it was thanks to these books that I was able to learn the language of these creatures and get some idea of the human world. Something of an autodidact, are we? I found new books over time. For example, recently when I ate a couple of campers. I enjoy reading. I'll have to remember to pick this book up when I'm all done. I'm assuming little man who had a bag full of books. That's a child on the way to or from school. Starting to think maybe I should have attacked those guys. Maybe that's the good ending. I would have had my home destroyed, myself killed, and, well, that's better for all involved, since it seems I have pretty much an urge to act on instinct that overrides any kind of other cognitive function. I'm not familiar with human life, but I once saw construction workers staring into a similar dark box. They stared so intently, and sometimes shouted something and raised their hands in the air. Strange creatures. I wonder if for whatever reason I'm not able to see the images on a screen, or if I just couldn't tell from that angle. It's locked. They're ripping out plants and putting them in containers. I find it difficult to understand the meaning of these perverse acts. You've got quite a vocabulary. A bathroom. Nothing else here, though. What a horrible, terrifying sound. I'll have to deal with that thing. It scares me. I can't jump up into the tub. Some kind of storage room here. I remember people lugging these boxes here. I wonder what's in them. Should we have a look? Are we able? Doesn't seem like I can. I can climb up them by walking to them, but I can't jump on my own. Once again, raising the question of what do I look like? There she is. That's it. There she is, lying in front of me. All that's left to do is take the first step. But I don't dare. Why? Something is wrong. My mood is not the same. I don't feel the same rush of energy, an unbearable restraint as before. Well, maybe I should come back later. Apparently now is not the right time. Yeah, I should definitely keep an eye on her. Maybe it's a trap. Well, until next time, Birdie. Why couldn't I kill her? And all the sounds she makes now don't seem so disgusting to me. I would even say that I became interested in hearing what she was doing. There's water running down the pipes somewhere, and here she seems to be taking things out of boxes. Huh. I wonder what she keeps in them after all. I think when I was lying at her door, I felt something strange. A feeling I've never had before toward another living creature. And so I look at the pile of skulls and I want to take some of my best skull, my dearest one, and take it to her. Leave it under the door somewhere. Am I developing like some kind of attraction to her? What is happening to me? Back in on another night. Perhaps as things are unpacked, each night there will be more and more objects scattered about. Things for us to examine. These look like maybe picture frames. I can't interact with things I've already seen, though. Maybe we can get a look at what she's removed from some of these boxes? Yes, this room is beginning to be furnished. Is that a note on the wall up there? Perhaps we can climb up. Newspapers as well. No, we're not able. And I'm not able to walk under the table. Oh no, we can climb up on the chair. So, she likes reading as much as I do. That's great. She reads so carefully that she even highlights individual pieces with circles. On one of the pages, I saw a picture of a headless body. It looked suspiciously familiar to me, but I can't remember where from. Well, now that I know what was in those boxes, I don't have to dig through them myself. It's all newspapers. And a headless body that seems familiar to me. I'm starting to wonder if she's not here for me. Maybe to investigate the disappearances that I might have caused? Can we get over here and maybe climb up on this? No. Only thing we can do is, once again, spy on our beloved. She's not here. Strange. The bed is empty. And apparently she's not in the house either. Where could she have gone at this hour? I have to leave what I brought for her and hurry back to the window in case she comes soon. Oh. That doesn't seem properly to scale. Where did you find this? I can imagine hearing a scream from down below and taking that as a sign of joy. We always seem to start in the kitchen, so I assume we come through the window, right? Here you are, back again. But something has changed in you. Nothing has changed in me. Everything is the same as before. Is it? I thought you liked being alone. It is. And I will always be alone. I don't need anyone by my side. Why did you hesitate when you had a chance to kill her? What are you hoping for? What do you think will happen when she sees you? The same thing that always happens. Shut up. Your mere appearance will cause her to vomit. You're different from her. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! Or do you think she'll move here? Maybe, but only if in pieces, right? Shut up, you vile spirit. I'll prove you wrong. I'll go back to her house right now and wait in her bedroom. And we'll go back to my place together. You'll understand. I told you. You've changed. Right now. So she's back. Did she find our gift? She must have, because it's not there now. It really is like it's written for seeing the opposite side of a horror story. Here we wait. A note. A note addressing Mark. Mark? Who is he? The note tells him to remember to pick up the box from the nightstand that contains candles needed for... I don't understand. There's a lot of words I don't know. Mark, we did it! Take it to the basement. Pay attention. It's still moving. Have I been captured? I think they were here for me. Should we just dismember it right in the basement? My whole body hurts terribly. What happened? I don't remember how I got here at all. I read the note and then... it hurts. I can't remember anything. I have to go home. Well, I guess they chose not to dismember me, but it really does seem like this whole thing was a trap. Something intended to lure me out. They knew about me already. She wasn't surprised. I could leave, I could go out the front door, but what if I explore some more? Maybe that's one of the potential endings. What if I go back? I could go out the front, maybe through the window, or to here. What if I take the candles that are needed? No, I can't. Are they maybe planning to perform some kind of ritual involving me? Maybe there is an occult element to this. I'm not just something that naturally grows in the earth. That way or the window? I have to check. No, the window I find now closed. Nor can I interact with the bottles here. Okay, I'm kind of killing the pacing of this segment, but I do know that there's multiple endings. That's why I'm taking my time. Chapter 2. Betrayal? Oh, I'm running off into the woods. Towards a campsite? It's kind of difficult to see. A campsite that may have been left in a hurry. This is the tent of those pesky campers. They obviously shouldn't have set up camp near my place. Is there anything we can get from here? No, nothing but an overturned cooler. I imagine I must have fed on them at some point, and that includes all their stuff. There's different points of interest blinking in the darkness. It won't be long before I'm home again. Is this like how I guide myself? With some kind of luminescent bulbs that only I can see, maybe? This backpack is remarkably similar to the one the little man had. I remember how in some fit of rage and hunger I killed him, and books fell out of the exact same backpack. I took them, and that's how I learned to understand the language of humans. What's going on here? But I can't interact with this one. Where to next? Over there, I think. Way off in the distance. Oh, it would be so easy to get lost out here. on a trip that I've apparently made countless times before. What is all of that? More tree branches? No, that looks like some kind of ritualistic image drawn into the ground. What is it? Salt? It wasn't here before. My body feels weak and sleepy, so I think I should lie down for a while. But I need to go first. Did it really work? Is that thing still moving? Something's wrong. Mark, I told you we should have dismembered it. At least we had a chance in the basement while it was passed out. You know it wouldn't help anyway. It can only be killed through a ritual. That's what the book said. My whole body feels as if it's weightless. I can't move. I can barely look from side to side. What's going on here? That's her. The girl I risked myself for by getting out. Who's that with her? I don't remember him. What an ugly thing it is. Do you think it knows what's going on? Who cares what that thing understands? Mark, it killed our father. Why doesn't it die is what worries me. Ugly. Why does she say such hurtful words? She didn't like what I brought her? And this is after all we've had? You're not seriously going to make me feel sad for this thing. I don't say that as a reaction to the developer's intentions. I say that as a reaction to myself. What a fool I was. I thought we were made for each other. It seemed to me that I knew her well, that maybe somewhere deep down in her soul she guessed about my presence and was waiting for me to come. Well, you were half right. Are you sure we haven't forgotten anything? Solomon's cell is holding it together, but I don't see foam from its mouth or blue flames or anything like that. Is that what the symbol is called? Oh, Mark, you're asking me that? Well, yes, I'm asking you. You have the book. That's what I thought would happen someday. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I should really die. Why should I live? When she treats me like that, I feel something new again. As if 1,000 needles were tearing me from inside. Oh, Mark, I get it. We forgot... Don't tell me. We forgot the candles, Mark. I think my strength is coming back to me. I can move again. So that's how it is. So she wanted to get rid of me all this time. Well, you know, you've brought me a lot of new sensations, feelings that I haven't experienced before. And now, after everything that happened, I'm so tired. And I'm really hungry. I want to take you out to dinner. Mark, I think it's going to break out. Now it's your turn to come to my house. Chapter 3, Revelation. Why am I here? Huh? Even the voices have gone silent and are no longer laughing at me. The spirit no longer speaks to me too, and I dream only of darkness. Ever since the day I killed Marie, I've been lying next to the cocoon of my creator. I don't do anything. I just lie there and stare into the darkness. I look at my body, and it too is gradually crusted over. No one ever moved into Marie's house, so I could enjoy the silence. But I don't need it anymore. The crust is about to cover my eyes. and then I'm asleep for I don't know how long. Maybe even forever. From everything that happened to me, I understood only one thing. When I was at her bedside for the first time, when I saw her bare heel dangling from the bed, I should have eaten her at that moment. Ending 1. Oh, what a horror story. A horror story from a different perspective, but one that I really truly believe is the way to tell this story. But I feel like maybe by pursuing the endings we'll gain more perspective, because I still have questions. Strange how, in the end, even wanting to die, feeling so unwanted, it still attacked, knowing that it really does just work on instinct. Alright, I'm gonna go back. I can't really think of where else we could have diverged, unless maybe there's different things that can happen on a second run. But the only other choice I can think of is perhaps to kill the workers as they're working on the house. You know, on this second playthrough, man, they really do a good job of having it assault your ears just for a few seconds to give you an idea of why you were so disturbed. This time, the house never gets built to begin with. Yum, yum, yummy bee. This is my skull room. After the first time I ate a human, I lay tired outside and didn't even have the energy to crawl back home. The very first one I had was some guy sitting in the woods drinking beer and talking to himself. At first, I didn't want to do anything to him. I was just interested in watching him. Is that maybe Marie's father? When he noticed me, he started laughing out loud and pointing his finger. Then he suddenly picked up a stick and started hitting me with it. What kind of person is this? When it was over, I lay there for a long time, looking at his skull. Over time, I've accumulated so many skulls that sometimes I burrow inside this pile and gradually fall asleep. The green filter, the motion, the way we talk about things, this whole game just feels like filth, and yet it makes us understand the comfort within it. Here's the worker's skull, another in my collection. I have absolutely no memory of how it all happens. It's like I'm in a wild ecstasy and then it's over. My stomach is full, my breathing is heavy, and I want to sleep. Eventually, the house was finished. They finished this? So it seems like all this still happens the same way. I wonder if I just don't examine any of the objects in the other room, if that makes any difference? Oh, we can examine this. The pile of laundry. I could smell it as soon as I entered the room. That smell... it holds your breath. I've never smelled anything like it before. Maybe I should take something with me? Just as a reminder? I decided to take one of her dresses with me. I wonder if that'll have an impact on the ending. Ah, something has changed. Now it seems that that dress is hanging on the tree. Her dress? What is it doing here? How? Can I take it with me? No. Alright. On a third run, I'll try and see what happens if I just walk off into the darkness. Decide that I'm not going to go to where I call home. I moved into Marie's house. You could say she invited me herself, huh? Now she and I talk to each other a lot. I also began to better understand why people put flowers in pots. However, I don't use flowers. I like other things to furnish my surroundings. I also removed that awful black box. Now instead, it's something that's pleasing to my eye. I think I can live here. Marie doesn't seem to mind either. I'm getting more and more used to open spaces. Marie and I will have to go down to my place one more time, though. We're expecting children. Oh no. So, wait. Something that came before me must have impregnated the corpse itself that I crawled out of. So there's more of me, and, well, now there's really about to be more of me. Not only that, but it seems like with this, I myself am almost evolving, learning more and expanding up into new spaces. I can't imagine how it happened myself, but the larvae are already pretty big. They'll need to be taken to my lair. After all, they are my children. They'll be more comfortable there. By the way, the voices have stopped and I don't hear that awful laughter anymore. I think I now know what the word happiness means. And yet, sometimes I feel sad. And that was ending 3, which means there's still one more to pursue. I'm gonna go for it. I'm not sure what difference I could have made, but it doesn't take all that long to run through it. Now on this run, I guess we might as well see what happens if we try to just run off into the woods. Refuse to even go there. Oh, they just become more and more dense. And there is an edge to this. We don't really have a choice. Yeah, we've gotten this already, so it literally just came down to whether or not we killed the worker. It didn't actually matter whether we took the dress. Ooh, we can look up here. I didn't do the walls and the surroundings of this place. Surprisingly, it's always been this way. I can't even imagine how such a wonderful place came to be, as if it had been prepared especially for me. Those who came before, I guess. Look at that. What beautiful orifices there are. No favorites here, all equally pleasing to me. And that's why I sometimes squint my eyes and rush into the tunnel as if at random. There we are. There is something we can check right here. Now, I looked up on Steam, because I couldn't find any guides. I looked up on the Steam forums if anybody had gotten Ending 2 and what they did. And what they said was, kill the worker, check nothing but the plates, and then don't look at anything else, including the lights in the forest. Just go straight to the end. Now if I can just pixel hunt that, I've seen people eat out of plates and use cutlery many times. It makes no sense to me. The contact with food is so pleasant. Sometimes I notice that I like not only to fit my sharp teeth into the victim, but then also to lie in its remains for a while, covered with warm blood until it is cold. Okay, now at this point, if we follow that user's guide, or at least their recollection of how they got Ending 2, we should be avoiding all of these things and going straight for the end. Here we go, ending 2. Even though everything played out the same way, in the end, Marie was just another skull in my skull collection. From then on, the voices never ceased. They began to follow me during the day. The laughter never ended, but it didn't annoy me. I finally found the meaning of my existence, and I began to laugh with these bizarre creatures of the night. I began to enjoy waiting for the new tenants, playing with them. Eventually, of course, my tunnels were discovered, but by this time, I had already managed to move to another dwelling. Especially since my collection has grown so much, I needed more space. I also read in a newspaper that after my tunnels were discovered, they found the remains of my creator there. They say they've never seen anything like this in their lives. As for Marie, I can hardly find her skull among all these remains now. And not that I would like to, but I am grateful to her. After her betrayal, I realized my place in the world. And now, I work non-stop. I can't believe it, but we actually got even worse. When I get tired, I sit down and laugh non-stop while looking at my triumphant collection. The end. So that was I Live Under Your House, and wow. I feel like I've already said just about everything I have to say about it. The uniqueness of the story perspective, the way in which it really immerses you in that perspective, and just the grimy, gritty way it makes... I don't know, it's almost like it uses Game Boy graphics as like a shorthand for writhing worms and filth. So gross, but so good, and such a novel concept. There is a DLC. I believe it takes about 40 minutes to complete, I've read. And maybe I'll do that video in the very near future. I'll probably have already recorded it by the time you see this. One thing I do sort of like is, since we are inhabiting a completely different mindset, the endings are sort of appropriately esoteric, meaning that, so ending 1 is arguably the best ending for everyone, but the worst ending for us. And that's where we seemingly just run out of energy, lie down, and allow ourselves to cocoon over. Ending 2 and 3 are distinct, but they're both good for us, ostensibly, but also really, really bad for everyone else, where in ending 3, it's us moving to the surface, learning how to adapt to that environment, and also there's more of us on the way, while in ending 2, it's us essentially going insane, but also sort of becoming the perfect version of ourselves. It's weird to think about, but that's what makes it such a novel idea for a game. But the main thing is, I like how the story was revealed gradually, with new things to learn when you make different choices and pursue the different endings. It seems in the end like where we eventually ended up was tied to just how much we decided to immerse ourselves in this upper world that we're not familiar with. In essence, sort of a reverse like life swap thing, where the player has to learn to live down in the dirt, while for the best ending, this creature has to learn to live up above. Well, until I get to the DLCs, if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this game out for yourself, that link will also be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.